If you're looking to turn all those fall baking hopes and dreams into a full-blown reality, this pumpkin coffee cake is for you. It's going to come together from scratch, but I don't want you to feel intimidated by that. It's gonna be really simple, it's gonna be worth every single second in the kitchen, and you are more than capable of slamming out an absolutely perfect rendition. To kick off our pumpkin cake, we'll start with the dry ingredients. 1 1/4 cup all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt, 1 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground allspice, all going in, and just give that a really good whisk. Now for the wet ingredients, we're gonna bring in the pumpkin. You're gonna need 1 cup of canned pumpkin measured out. Add that to a large mixing bowl. You'll also need 1 1/3 cup light brown sugar packed, 2 large eggs, and 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Bring back the whisk it up, and make sure you get those eggs really good and evenly incorporated into all the wet ingredients. Now you'll pour in a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, melted and slightly cooled. And now you're gonna whisk until that's nice and evenly combined. You'll bring back the dry ingredients along with a 1/2 cup of whole milk. We're gonna add the dry ingredients alternating with the milk. So it's gonna go 1/3 of the dry ingredients, 1/2 of the milk, 1/3 of the dry ingredients, 1/2 of the milk, and the last 1/3 of the dry ingredients. And I find that a silicone spatula really is best for this job. That way you can scrape down the sides of the bowl while you're mixing. Before we can put this cake batter in the oven, we're going to need to prepare the cake pan, which technically we probably should have done first. And then we're also going to make an extra special buttery cinnamony crumble to go on top of the cake. Pan prep starts with butter. You just want to get yourself a nice generous slab, and now we're gonna slather it all over. Now you'll grab the parchment paper, and it's kind of like wrapping a present. You just want to bring up these ends to the side, and I just sort of pinch it to mark just like this. And now to help me to draw a straight line, I'll use a pin, and now I'll cut inside where I drew that line so that we don't end up with ink on our cake. Now I've just got my pan positioned here on the parchment paper again, and I'm just going to draw another line, and again, cut inside the line. I'm just gonna lay this little sheet right inside. And you can see the parchment only covers 2 sides of the pan. These are open, and this is really just because I want to be able to easily lift the cake out and not have to worry about it sticking to the bottom. Now you're just gonna pour that batter right in, and you're gonna spread it to the edges. Set these guys aside, and we're gonna get to that crumble. To kick off your crumble, you're gonna add a 1/4 cup all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons light brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of fine sea salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon to a small mixing bowl, and give it all a good mix. Then you'll add 3 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter cut into 1/4 inch cubes. Grab a pastry blender and cut that butter right in. Bring the cake back and sprinkle that crumble all over the top. The batter and the crumble are done. Now we're gonna bake this in the oven at 350 degrees on a center rack for 40 to 45 minutes. Here's a little food blogger hack for getting extra gorgeous color when it comes to crumbles on baked goods. When the bake time is up, you'll just pop the broiler on high. But watch the cake, you absolutely cannot walk away at this point. Watch closely, and as soon as you see it start to take on that golden deep brown coloring, your pumpkin cake is officially baked to total perfection. We're gonna let this cake cool in the pan on the rack for about 20 minutes. Then we're gonna use those handy dandy parchment paper sides to pull that cake right out, and then we'll pop it right back on the rack. At this point, if you wanna cut into your cake, you totally can. But if you want to make it extra delicious, show-stoppingly gorgeous, we're gonna have to whip up a vanilla glaze. But don't worry, it's so easy. In a small mixing bowl, you'll combine 1 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons of whole milk, a ½ teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and a pinch of fine sea salt. Just whisk all of that together until it's looking perfectly smooth and you're done. Grab yourself a spoon and start drizzling. Just gonna let this glaze set up 20 to 30 minutes. That vanilla glaze is totally set. I've got my favorite cake stand here and a cake lifter. If you don't have a cake lifter, you can just use 2 spatulas. You'll just slide the cake lifter or spatulas right underneath, peel that parchment paper away, and set it gently down on the cake stand. One look at this cake and you can tell fall has arrived, but just wait until you taste it. Looking for more awesome fall treats to try? Check out my apple cake, ginger molasses cookies, pumpkin muffins, and even pear cobbler next. They're all ready for the taking in my fall baking playlist.